Hi, I'm Commander Shepard, and you're listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net.
And now, our feature presentation.
Are we at war?
We don't know his name. Money, weapons, intel. He's planning something.
Sergeant McTavish, welcome to the City of Souls. There are few here to uphold the law, and many of those who resist corruption disappear.
Terrorism is good for business. As long as there is a war on terror, there will be no real war on drugs.
We've got bigger problems.
We're not 141 and lost for Keros. We're a team.
I want to know how many they have and where they intend to use them.
Y'all got a clear picture?
All set.
Good morning, operators. This is Task Force TWIG, otherwise known as Task Force TWIG. I am your commander today. I am Mike the Birdman, coming to you from the great command outpost of Canada, but I'm also joined by fellow Canadian soldier as we take a look at the latest release from Activision and Infinity Ward. I'm joined by my second in command.
Alex the Sergeant producer?
Sure. But it's one of those things where everybody in the military gets kind of a nickname. And it wasn't until I started looking into this game's history and I finally learned what SOAP actually means when it comes to some of these characters. And if you've been playing any of these military shooters since the 2007 first Call of Duty Modern Warfare, there's a lot of acronyms that get thrown around, and I know one of them.
Well, if my nickname should just be SPD or SPD for Silent but Deadly, because actually no, that's not right because all my farts are loud.
But you'd probably just be called Fart or Gas.
Farts. That's not. Well, yeah.
I'd be called Wheels.
You'd be Wheels and I'd be Farts. Wheels and like which
Farts on Wheels.
Which team are we sending in? Wheels and Farts, and like they're done for.
The two-man squad. So yes, guys, we are going to be talking about the latest release from Activision and Infinity Ward. We will be talking about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Review codes were provided to us for this particular review. So this is going to be a special prototype that we often do when we get some of the larger games. The next one of these reviews you'll be looking forward to will be next weekend. As we start to approach Black Friday, I'll be taking a look at God of War Ragnarok coming to us from Sony Entertainment. I'll be covering that one solo. So look for that next weekend as you enjoy your Saturday afternoon. So we have a lot to talk about in this review. We are going to talk about campaign. I will be doing a very extensive overview of multiplayer. Warzone has not yet launched. Neither has the Demilitarized Zone, which I don't know a whole lot about those ones because that's really not my jam. I'm really not a battle royale player.
Yeah, neither am I. I know there's been a lot of buzz around Demilitarized and people anticipating it.
Yeah, like it's not my thing, but I may dip my toe into it literally a little bit kind of later on, but I might play a little bit more Warzone later on this year as I really do like the engine that this particular Call of Duty is developed in.
Now, because you know me and anybody listening knows that I'm not the biggest multiplayer gamer, I'm only on the periphery. Is this in tandem with Warzone 2?
Well,
because I know Warzone's been out a while and it integrates with pretty much every release the last few years.
As far as I know, your bundles don't carry over, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guns would need to be retuned. So as far as I know, Warzone 2.0 is its own thing. I mainly focus on core 6v6, but I have been experimenting with ground war and invasion, and then you and I have played some of the co-op missions as well. So let's kind of get things started right off here, and let's talk about the campaign such as it may be. So it's about 17 missions, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, some smaller than others. Like in my head, it was probably closer to 10 large missions, but there's a few sections that are broken up into smaller parts.
Yeah, so it'll take you at least 6 to 8 hours to beat, which is pretty good. It never overstays its welcome, but there are some missions that are more annoying than others. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
There's some parts, and we can get into it as we go through, that are more in line with cool idea, but clearly put to fill time with dying over and over again.
Yeah,
like,
it basically overstays its welcome by about 5 minutes at points.
Yeah, or like frustrating, like not bottlenecks, but like frustrating areas, checkpoints that you're funneled through, where it's like, oh, is like some people go, oh, is this here just to fill time? Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily that. It's just a lot of people will have trouble with it, and you'll keep repeating the same spot over and over again. It's just some little spots that could have used some polish for checkpoints, specifically, like where there are areas where you could be stuck in a checkpoint and might have to restart the mission entirely, because if you respawn in, you might respawn in the wrong spot.
Mm-hmm. So to summarize the story, we're not going to give away a lot of plot kind of details, but you start with Task Force 141 that basically follows the assassination of a Iranian general who's been meeting with the Russians to buy weapons. Something gets stolen, new leadership is instilled, and what you get is kind of a globe-trotting adventure that takes you from the Middle East to Mexico to Spain, Amsterdam, and eventually back to the United States in Chicago, and even on a oil rig. And there are things that reference the original Modern Warfare 2 in very subtle ways. One of my favorite references is at the end of the game, and I'm not going to give you the context of it, but they say no Russian. And for those of you that played the original No Russian mission back in Modern Warfare 2, it's not as brutal. In fact, it's a non-playable section, but it works a lot better in this regard, I think.
This and that reference you're making, for somebody like myself who never played Call of Duty when it was in its first run, really until Ghost came out, mm-hmm. That was what I remember hitting the mainstream media as being like, that was the controversial mission, right? That was the first time I think it went from being like gamer culture to where it was like, people were like, what is that? What's this Call of Duty?
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those missions where it really got people's attention, probably for all the wrong reasons. But yeah.
And there's a little part of the mission in this game that has also been bringing up some controversy, not to the same level. But like I'll just mention it right here. There is a part of the game where you are having to go through people's homes to track down terrorists, and the game tells you to de-escalate by pointing guns at innocent civilians.
Yeah, so not exactly how I would de-escalate a situation.
No, and you know what? What's funny about it is like that's hit some, out of context. It's been hitting some platforms. People are like, oh man, like that de-escalate by doing this. And it's something as simple as maybe using different wording would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like people are like, oh, did they do that on purpose? I don't think so. I think it's literally like, yeah, you technically are just de-escalating the situation, but maybe instead of saying de-escalate by pointing guns, it should have said, shut them up or something to the extent of, we're in a rush. We got to get through this. We're trying to catch a terrorist, but maybe don't on the screen pause and say, point, aim your weapon at their faces to de-escalate, because that's not generally how you de-escalate a situation.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I do like about this particular version of Modern Warfare 2 is they bring in the Narcos war. Basically, you do temporarily deal with a Mexican drug cartel, which is allied with this terrorist group. And I like how they did that, actually. They introduced two new members of
the new
Task
characters,
Force 141.
Yeah, they were some of the more interesting characters. And there was a lot of focus on them. And it's not like it was disjointed or anything. Like, I was worried it was going to feel like separate games, and it wasn't. They found a way to sort of integrate them, and it's almost like this game is how they're building up new characters and having the old characters in it too. It's almost like Jason Bourne meets Fast and Furious.
Yeah, like one of the things I do like here, because in the original Modern Warfare 2, General Shepard's character was played by Lance Hendrickson. Here it's played by Glenn Mossauer. Basically, the guy who plays every military general from 24 to Transformers, he's that older, heavier set, redheaded gentleman who sounds very military-ish.
He sounds Midwest, but also Southern, but also not.
Yeah, he's default military NPC guy.
We need generic military guy who in most movies usually doesn't play a bad military guy. He just plays the inconsequential general.
Yeah.
Only here he's more consequential.
Yeah, like, and you do get some really good banter between Captain Price and Gaz and Soap and Ghost, and you get a lot more characterization on Ghost in this game than you ever did in Modern Warfare 2. Spoiler, he dies in the original game, and here you kind of care about who these characters are, which is something that the original games you never really got. I mean, even playing Soap and Roach in the original games, I knew more about Captain Price than I did any of the other characters, but that's just how video games have evolved. You have more time to flesh out characterizations. If you're going to tell a political and military story, especially in 2022, I'm not saying you have to write me War and Peace, but you have to give me something a little bit more other than bad guy wears black, please shoot him.
Yeah, that's for sure. And what's interesting is with Ghost, like I hadn't played the original game like this, I didn't really know much about the character. But I sort of got the idea. It's like loner, doesn't get along with anybody, and the camaraderie builds throughout the game to the point where Ghost unmasks. You don't get to see it, but does unmask, and it's like as a way of finally bonding with the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pretty, like, it was played pretty well. It wasn't like overly hammed up or anything, but you got the impression from all the other characters that, like, okay, this is a big deal. We're all in this.
Yeah, like I really liked how the storyline played out in this game. And I know there's supposed to be a Call of Duty TV show or movie. If it's based upon this version of Task Force 141, then I'm pretty happy with it. Well, I just want to see a really cool Captain Price and Ghost.
What this game really, like the feel of it, I don't know if you ever watched the show, but it was called Strike Back. And it was on, I think it was Cinemax, actually, when they were trying to do like an action show run about 10 years ago. And it was about like a half British, half American covert ops team that were sent in to stop terrorists in different countries. Each season was a different country with a different terrorist plot. Is pretty much this game. Not the same plot, but like the way it's filmed, the way the characters interact, the high amount of action and intrigue and all, and it's pretty much a Call of Duty like experience, and that's very much the vibes I got from this.
Yeah, I mean, overall, fantastic story. It's interesting. You don't get a lot of, it's not very stereotypical for your bad guys. I think they're a little bit more kind of nuanced. They reference Makarov, who's a big guy in the original Call of Duty series. It's good. Very, very, very pleased. Now, to talk about some of the missions, there is one that I'm very pleased with how it happens. I'm not going to give you the exact context, but you become wounded and you have to start gathering items very solid snaky like.
Yeah, there's a couple ones where you have to be a little stealthy. And if you try to go off the beaten path or not go stealthy, you can technically beat them, but you will be very, very likely killed no matter what difficulty you play on. This particular level is by far like, this is, hey, we're going to feature, here's our stealth level with how decent our AI is.
And that mission I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah, that one took me about an hour and a half. It's probably the longest of the missions. Because you're going through, like you said, you're disarming traps, you're trying to be silent, you're hiding in the dark because the AI can't see you in the dark. Like it's pretty smart, and eventually you're working your way. The whole point is to try to gather some materials, escape certain rooms while they're walking through trying to find you, and once you get out and you're into the sort of open courtyard area, the goal is find a knife. And then it's like, after you find a knife, find one of the soldiers, isolate them, kill the soldier, and then get a gun where you might have like 5 bullets. And then it's like, all right, now get to this other area of the courtyard and you can finally get your proper ammo and get patched up. And then you're having to like go underwater and get these elite enemies that normally would take a lot more damage before they die. And you're having to like slowly kill them one by one without them noticing. And it's pretty, like, it almost feels like a completely different stealth game.
Yeah, like there are moments in that particular section where I felt kind of badass, and I was able to trick enemies where I could funnel them into locations where I wanted to them. So
Molotov cocktail like 4 or 5 at a time.
Yep. So I would use smoke bombs to make them funnel towards one area. They'd run into trip mines that I set up in one, and then their buddies would come to investigate the noise. I'd get a crowd of about 4 or 5 of them, and then I would Molotov cocktail them from above and mop up any survivors with a shotgun.
There was a lot more crafting of items in that level, but in this game, I think, than previous single player.
This is the first time I've ever seen this. And
like I've seen it where in games in these games where there's like some environmental things you use, but this was the one where you like the whole point was like, opening up little doors, and it's like, I found some broken glass. I can mix that with some glue and something else, and I can make myself a sticky bomb.
Yeah, like this was pretty clever. I did like how this was implemented. Now there is a section later on in the game where they revisit this idea. That's the only section where it was really annoying and kind of out of place. But I'm glad it wasn't a bullet sponge level.
Were you like me, where you had to remember to keep breathing because you were so panicked?
Yeah. Well, basically, I kept dying because I had to run out of that one section because I'd have to run, otherwise they'd shoot me. I'd have to do the item with the other interactive time element, and I kept dying. I think the only reason I beat that section was pure dumb luck.
Well, I found the one room that had it had the 2 doors you could close, and that's where I did the timed element. And then after you do the timed element, you then have to keep running. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, like there are some really good moments where they really use their new elements. There's one mission, not going to spoil the context of it, but it's where you have to jump from vehicle to vehicle while they're moving and gunfighting. It's very Michael Bay Transformers.
Yeah.
At times that mission's really, really awesome.
They do it twice. There's that mission. Are you talking about the first time, or are you talking about the second time where you're also at the same time having to catch up with a truck that's throwing mines on the road?
The mine truck. Part of that mission is really fun. And part of that mission is...
Well, the problem is that's the mission where if you die at the wrong spot, it will respawn you in a spot where there's not enough vehicles around to jump onto, and your vehicle is already going to explode. And there might only be one vehicle or none. And if you don't jump to a vehicle almost immediately, the truck will get so far away that you'll fail the mission anyway. You can be put into a situation where you have to restart the whole mission.
My problem with that one, and this is probably a uniquely me issue, is you better have the right weapons for that particular mission. If you've got a pistol, you can do it. Good luck. I beat it with a really good assault rifle and a really good LMG. But when that mission's firing on all cylinders, it's really action movie and it's really fun.
Yeah, I lucked out and I had a shotgun, which when you're taking out drivers of a vehicle and jumping from vehicle to vehicle, that does help because you don't have to have perfect aim.
Mm-hmm. The other mission that I really liked, it's where you and Captain Price and Gaz are in Amsterdam, and you have to stealthily take out people with throwing knives, and then you have to get a silenced pistol. That mission, it's really short, but I really liked it.
You beat him with throwing knives?
Oh yeah, I didn't fire a shot.
I did not do that.
Oh, you did it completely different.
Yeah, I just walked up to a guy and choked him out on the park bench. And then the other, when you're trying to get out of there, I died a couple times, figured out who the 3 people that were going to run up at me were, shot them all in the head as quickly as I could, and ran away.
Yeah, what I did is I hid in the water. I duck right below the docks, wait till they turn their back to have a smoke, grab my knife, go back in the water, and I would do that. And when they went by in the patrol boats, I get the angle right. Knife, dead.
And that one. Oh, yeah.
I
thought you were talking about the mission near the beginning that's in Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah.
Because the one you're talking about, I don't believe is in Amsterdam.
Maybe. No, it is, because that's where you pick up that trail, but that's after that section.
That's right.
So they're super close together. Yeah.
Yeah. That one sucked.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that one.
No, sucked as in I was always on edge because I was swimming around. I'm like, oh, I got to the spot. It's like, oh no, wait, I can't just avoid them. That's the one where you're supposed to be stealthy, but you have to kill everybody.
Yeah, and that one I thought was really well done.
It's something where if you were able to avoid them, you could stealth. Technically, it would have been nice. You could have got to the very end and not have to do any battle and get through it in 2 minutes. But I got to a certain point where I swam to an area and they're like, you have to take out all of I was like, oh, damn it. I thought you could stealth it, and it gave you the hint that you could, but no, you couldn't. They actually made you kill everybody that was there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, mission variety, very nice. It doesn't overstay its welcome. You get a wide variety of weapons during all the missions. You never feel under-equipped. I didn't use the sniper rifles a whole lot. That's just not been me. I always tend to favor ARs and SMGs that are silenced if I can.
There's a couple missions where you absolutely have to use the sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you replace your sniper rifle with something else,
it'll yell at you.
It will not just yell at you, it won't let you complete it.
No, you can do that, because there's a mission. We are in the fish hatchery. Again, context, I'm not going to give it to you. I did that mission with an AR that just had a really good scope on it. And I can hit a really far target. So I thought that was going to screw me, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm thinking, I threw that on top of the fish hatchery. I don't want to go back and get that. So I thought that checkpoint was going to screw me. So thank you for playing Warzone and being able to see a pixel of a person hiding behind a hill.
It was interesting with the sniper runs where they were one of the missions was they want you to kill 2 at a time. So you kind of need a sniper rifle because the AR won't do enough penetration.
Yeah, exactly. You do need angle. You do need power. But I thought that was actually kind of clever how they would do stuff like that. And they actually tell you need to aim 2 notches up to account for bullet drop. I'm thinking, that's clever.
And then you're like, oh, I can do this. And you hear when it's 4 notches, you're like, oh man, this is going to suck if I don't do it right.
But yeah, I mean, I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 did a lot of things right with its campaign. Other than those missions that do have some frustrating checkpoints, not too bad at all.
It's probably, some people are saying it's the best Modern Warfare single player campaign, ever, or even close to that. It's the second best one I've played. I personally like the Cold War campaign more for 2 distinct reasons. One was branching paths with multiple endings. There were 2, well, technically 3. There's 3 endings if you include the secret true ending. And the second part was there was all the collectibles and weird things and hidden things to find, all all the intel and all the arcade machines that would unlock arcade games and computer games you could play in the secret room on your main base. So that's what felt most compelling to me. That's not here, but unlike Vanguard, this has a much more compelling single path game than, like, let's be honest, Vanguard was not a good single player.
No. Vanguard had cool ideas, but it just never went anywhere.
It felt like a game from 20 years ago in how linear it was. There's multiple ways you can complete each level. There just isn't a branching pathway, which is what I would have liked. Mm-hmm. But so if you consider that, like, here is a linear story we're telling, here's the exact story, this is the best linear path Call of Duty in years.
Yeah.
It's going to be up to personal preference. Do you like the idea of a good ending, a bad ending, and a secret ending? Because if you like that, that's not in this version.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to our next category, and this one will be a little bit shorter, only because there isn't a lot in the game right now, but Battle Pass and Season 1 is launching literally within a week or so of this review going up, and that's going to be co-op. As of right now, there are 3 missions. There's one where you have to go around and find radioactive material for a dirty bomb. There's another one where you have to go and destroy SAM sites, which is surface-to-air missiles. And then the last one, you have to defend a position from invading forces over the course of 6 waves with progressively harder enemies, but you have access to kill streaks.
Okay, the first one we played together, I did not like.
That was the one mission I'm like, I think Alex has rage problems.
Well, no, I played it. I played it, and I was like, this is why I don't like, it's sort of like, I'm like, this is why I don't like Call of Duty multiplayer, period. And it was unfair difficulty and AI to the point where it's boring to me if I don't feel there's a chance of winning.
If I was able to get through it easy.
If I feel like the AI is unfair, then I will go, fuck it, I'm never playing this ever again. And that's the problem. I felt like comparatively to the main game, it's too hard.
Yeah. Now to talk about that, so these missions, they're called co-op. They're called, basically, it's this version of Spec Ops. Now the thing is, you can only have 2 people in, and there is no way directly to play solo. You can do it, but there's a trick to it. So these 3 missions you have to do, and Alex is not wrong. Some of the AI does feel a little bit unfair. They're a lot more alert than they are in the campaign mission. Now, I had a vastly different experience with this. The first time I played Spec Ops, I encountered several bugs. One really helpful, one really bad.
So did we, and this is what made it more frustrating to me, was I was like, I can't turn left or right.
Yep, I had the exact same issue the first time I loaded in.
We played, I think, 5 times total. 3 times we had to restart because I couldn't turn. And it made no sense. And I'm like, how is this? And it's not a bug just with PlayStation, because I'm playing it on PS5 and you're playing it on Xbox. And through that, we can confirm that voice chat and crossplay worked out of the box. No fancy stuff having to do this time. Because remember the last 3 years we tried this, there was trouble with at launch trying to get it to work. So voice chat in-game and crossplay just worked immediately, automatically, no problems. That's fantastic. But being able to use your right analog stick is key and important. And I have no idea how only in that version, only in that particular mission, it doesn't work, or it'll crash or go weird.
Now,
and it seems to be cross-platform.
Now, the first time I encountered this bug, I got around it in a really, really strange way. I was in the mission. So the bug that I encountered and how I got around it is, I was in the mission and I died. My teammate came and picked me up, but I still couldn't aim left or right. But I could deploy equipment, and the person over the radio says, "Use your drone." So I used my drone, and I could drive left and right. I could do everything that I should be able to do. When I exited out of my drone, mysteriously I was able to walk around and shoot. And then the person left the match. So I'm in the match all by myself trying to beat it. And if you die, if you're in the match by yourself, Spec Ops, you can just keep playing by yourself, which is wonderful. And that's how I beat that mission. I just learned the map because I kept dying over and over again. And then the other bug, dare I call it a feature, there's an invincibility bug right now that can be done with a door. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because people shouldn't be exploiting this. But it made that a hell of a lot more fun when you can kill a juggernaut with a pistol.
Well, with the second mode we didn't play, but the third mode we had a lot of fun with.
Oh, yeah, because it felt like traditional teamwork. I mean, other than the random bombs going off every so often.
It felt, even though it's not the same, it felt I had more fun with this than I did with any of the multiplayer that we did with last year's game.
Mm-hmm.
This was, while it's not the same as Zombies or Outbreak, it had a similar feel where the difficulty wasn't too high. Like it seemed way more balanced here, where yes, they can see you and everything, but it wasn't like one shot is going to kill you.
Yeah, like
even when the odds are against you, I had a lot of fun. You know, you're running out to one area, clearing out the bomb. I'm running to another area, clearing out the bomb, and then we're racing back and buying up cruise missiles and extra team supports and turrets and everything. That felt super fun.
Mm-hmm. Like, I know in the Battle Pass, I think we get 2 more missions, which I'm looking forward, hoping they'll follow a similar structure, because they are fun and they are separate from the main game storyline. It adds to it, but you do not need to get it. Plus, there's collectible intel, their little kind of blurbs and stuff like that. It doesn't really add a whole lot to it, but sure, it's fun.
Well, at least it's something. Remember, Vanguard had like nothing.
Yeah, Vanguard wasn't a very good experience in that regard.
Vanguard felt like a demo, and I know, like last year when we were reviewing it, we were like, are they going to come out with more stuff? And from what I know, I don't think they did.
Yeah, the zombies mode was almost abandoned not too long after, I think, January or February of that year. Just not a lot was added to it. The Easter egg was lame. Whereas Outbreak from the year before, you, me, and our friend Liam, we would stay up till like 7 o'clock in the morning playing that.
I am not a multiplayer guy, and we probably put in like 100 hours.
Oh yeah, it was just fun.
Of us just hanging out like for 4 or 5 hours a night.
Yeah, it was just fun, and we knew what we were doing. We played traditional zombies rounds too,
because we got 10 times the amount of gameplay out of that than we did from the single player, and I loved the single player in that. Like it felt, because it was a complete game. It wasn't like a mini game. Playing Outbreak was like a full game.
Yeah, like honestly, if you told me Call of Duty would come out with an Outbreak mode every year, I guaranteed would drop the money every single year.
If they just made a zombies with Outbreak, like if they made a full game, I would buy it.
Now there is a mode like that, similar but not entirely. You have to play with people, and it's called Invasion, and it's kind of like that. You just fight waves of people and enemy AI, and you just have to get to a certain point score. It's a lot of fun. It really is. Like, there's vehicles, there's stuff you can do. It's fun. Ground Wars, like 30v30, still fun. Not my cup of tea. Didn't spend a lot of time in there, but it is fun. The mode that I'm going to talk about now, and this is where Alex has the least amount of knowledge, and this is where Mike's going to get preachy for, I don't know, get out your stopwatches, folks. I'll be talking for about 10 minutes. And that's the 6v6 multiplayer. So
that's where I leave, because I'm never going to be good enough to play.
So I do not play in tier 1. Tier 1 is hardcore. I don't do it. That's one shot, one kill. Basically, you get dropped almost immediately. But in core 6v6 multiplayer, this is my bread and butter. I play primarily hardpoint, domination, kill confirmed, and team deathmatch. But there's also a mode called prisoner and knockout, and that's basically where you have to defend a package, kill someone, or recover a package, hold it for so long, or kill the other team, but you can pick up people, but there's no respawns. And that can be a lot of fun coordinating. It's not like search and destroy, which can be fun on microphones, but I swear to God, everybody likes to live near a fan or in a wind tunnel. I've encountered very few good mics in Call of Duty 6v6 so far. But so far, in my experience, I am level 55, which means I'm currently maxed out. I've maxed out probably 7 or 8 weapons platforms, got most of the attachments for every single one. How you unlock guns is a little weird this year, and I don't know whether I'm a huge fan of it, but it does forces you to change up your play style. So I'm going to start with one example because it's the easiest. If you play with the M4, which is the default assault rifle, as you level that up, you unlock additional receivers. So you eventually, as you unlock that gun from level 1 to 20, I think it is, you'll unlock the FTAC Recon, the Hurricane. So you'll unlock a marksman rifle and you'll unlock an SMG. Whereas you play with the Lockman 7.62, that will unlock the 5.56 model. And then once you upgrade that to a certain level, you will unlock the Lockman SMG, which is more or less the MP5. And you can mix and match parts, attachments, and it forces you to change up your play style. And some of the weapons like stocks and lasers may only be attainable by upgrading a sniper rifle up to level 3, but then you can use that attachment on any other gun that can use that. Like there's one blueprint that I got, which I'll talk about that in a moment, that I got from Twitch. I had to watch a Twitch player for an hour. I got a sniper rifle called the Task Force 141. Cool. Only had to get that gun up to level 3, unlocked one of the best lasers in the game. Now I use that laser on almost every single one of my classes because it's all positives and no kind of negatives. So the gun system is designed around, you get 5 attachments, and there's a lot of talk in the community right now where does adding attachments to your gun make it worse? And in some cases, it absolutely can, because it can slow down your aim down sights time, your sprint out time, your reload stuff. And you really have to play with it. And once you get a gun to max level, you get something called weapon tuning. And at this point, I don't know whether it's bugged or not. I know Exclusive Ace was talking about it on his channel last week. It doesn't seem to really do much. I mean, you can turn it so your recoil stabilization is so good, or your recoil control. And there's different sliders and values, and it doesn't seem to make a whole heck of a lot of difference just yet. Again, don't know whether it's bugged or not. Long story short, don't futz with it. It's not worth your time. Prioritize your play style. Get the attachments that you want. And honestly, go watch this guy's channel because he does all the data. It's all hand tested. People have trusted this guy for years. He's probably worth it. And I think he's Canadian, so go him. And other than that, though, like you unlock new kill streaks. And this is something new, and I don't know whether other Call of Duties have done it or not. You can choose it to be a kill streak or a score streak. Now, I play primarily in objective-based game mode. It's just a lot more fun to me. And rather than kill 4 people for a UAV, I can have that be activated by score. So like me, I go to hard points. I know the map so well. I'm like, okay, I got 10 seconds left. I'm going to leave this hard point, get in position, so I get more XP and points because I'm in that hard point the second that it pops. So I'm able to get my kill streaks and score streaks faster than other people. And I think that's the way the game kind of balances, whereas other Call of Duties, you could, I know in Advanced Warfare, for example, certain points of your if you had support streaks, your score would just keep going up and up and up. But if you wanted kill streaks, you had to maintain kills. But if you were doing support, then it was a lot easier to earn certain things. I'm probably speaking a lot of gibberish. A lot of people will what I'm talking about. Alex is completely checked out, but that's okay.
I'm listening.
That being said, though, I haven't found skill-based matchmaking to be too bad in my experience. Again, that's more for pros like Drifter and Exclusive Ace to kind of talk about. I've had fairly consistent matches. I haven't run across too many sweaty tryhards. I have had people curse at me because they're like, how do you know this? I'm like, because I only play 2 or 3 game modes and I know the maps really well. So the map selection at launch is pretty good. We are getting Shipment and we are getting Shoot House very soon. Shipment is the ultimate in chaos, and it's a really good way to level up your guns faster. And that's something to speak about too for just a moment. To earn weapon XP, everything you do, as long as that weapon is in your hand, you're gaining levels for that gun. You're gaining experience. So launchers are notoriously hard to level up. So if you have a launcher in your hand, get a throwing knife and melee people. You will still get experience for that weapon, or so I've been led to believe. It's worked for me a couple of times. I just maxed out my first launcher the other day. So go it, I guess. Unlocking camos is weird, but once you do it, it applies across all weapon platforms. So if you unlock a forest skin for one gun, it might apply to everything else. So that's kind of cool. It's a lot easier to get gold weapons in this. If you want that really cool, gaudy looking weapon camo, you can probably do it a lot easier here. As for operators, if you do everything, there are 3 operators that are locked behind the co-op missions. They're kind of annoying, but just do it anyway. I mean, you can only customize so many of the operators right now. I did buy the Call of Duty endowment pack because I like to support veterans. So now my Hutch looks like a traditional U.S. Marine. He looks cool and it supports veterans, so neat. I know later on in the season there's going to be more operator packs, and I think they're based on NFL football players. So I don't know if they play hockey. Maybe I'll know who they are, but I don't know. So I don't know. Give me somebody interesting as a Call of Duty operator, then I'd be down to do it. I don't know. Bring back Snoop Dogg. He played Vanguard. Why not?
Just give us
other than that,
Dutch from
though,
Commando.
6v6 multiplayer feels like it's in a really, really, really good spot. Weapons feel balanced. No weapon seems like it's the OP meta gun. There are guns that are better than others. My favorite is basically what is the AK, because it's a fairly consistent 3-shot kill. Big fan of the MP5, the P90, which Alex will probably get a kick out of this. I actually have an entire class that is set up like a Stargate commando.
Really?
So that's kind of cool that I have that.
Dude, that's crazy.
Overall, I'm very pleased with 6v6 multiplayer in its current state. And I hope that things continue in this way. I'm hoping that the game just continues to improve, balance is maintained, and I'm happy with it. It's my game that I play to chill. So that is Mike's long-winded 6v6 multiplayer rant. Alex, back to you.
Yeah, that stuff is mostly above my head, but it's interesting to me how deep you can get with the multiplayer, but I'm just not a good enough player to like ever really be able to take advantage of that. And it's not about like a get good or anything. It's just I'm not a competitive player.
Yeah, I didn't get competitive until Advanced Warfare. Basically, when I bought my first Xbox Elite controller with Advanced Warfare all the way back in 2014, I've taken it seriously when I started following Call of Duty competitive. And that's something I want to talk about for just 30 seconds. This particular COD will get me back into watching CDL. I tuned out entirely during Vanguard. This will get me back into it because this game I understand the physics. I'm not having to know the weapon attachments that'll change the damage values with like, hey, this ammo now does this, that, and the other thing. It's not weird anymore. I like this. I get it. I understand it.
And the best part is, it's not boring.
No, like,
and I mean, it sounds like we're constantly shitting on last year's game, but it was really bad comparatively to everything else that had come out in the last 10 years.
I mean, last year, I will say this, there were some fun moments I did have. I mean, playing as the Terminator with World War II weapons was kind of a weird vibe.
And that's cool. But for me, being like the single player guy, like I was surprised.
Too short.
I was surprised at how poor the voice acting was, considering the talent involved. And it was like even more so than Cold War. It was COVID, the rushed game, Call of Duty, the game. And this feels like a standard high quality release.
Yeah, like this year, I think they did a lot of things right. I think a lot of the teams working on Call of Duty have kind of got things dialed in this year. Now, this is a year, like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time with Warzone. Now that I've kind of got my like reflexes back, maybe I'll try diving back into it when Warzone 2.0 comes out. I may try that demilitarized zone thing. I don't know a lot about it. Maybe I'll try it. Tier 1, I will never play because I don't like dying in 2 shots. And I can never get a squad of 6 people consistent enough that I don't like playing with like kind of randos. Now there are some problems I do have, and this is so nitpicky, but you'll understand what I mean when I say it. In previous Call of Duties, especially 2019, the last one you played, and in Cold War, you could save weapon blueprints. So if you had a certain setup for your assault rifle, you could have, hey, this is my zombie setup. This is my 6v6 setup. You can't save weapon blueprints yet, but you can gain access to them. Like if you watch on Twitch, for example, through the kind of Twitch drops, oh, hey, there's the Task Force 141 gun, or hey, here's the one edition that you and I got from the Vault edition. But I want to save my Stargate SG-1 P90, for example. I can't do that yet, but that's something they could patch in fairly easily. So I hope that gets fixed sooner than later. I want my combat record. I want to know how far I am. I know the seasonal prestige system. The last time I really cared about prestige was Advanced Warfare, where I actually got to master prestige level 14 or 15. Long story short, Alex, that's level 1000. So I'm a dork and a loser.
Good Lord.
Oh yeah, but I was good at that game. I'm not even afraid to say that. I was good. Because I like jetpacks and it played like Titanfall. So, but yeah, like I think overall it's little things that can be fixed in the background. I have had some crashes with this game, not too many. I know with JT, I gave him one of our other review codes for PlayStation because he's a guy who's a very, very casual player, and this is his first time in the modern era of gaming. And he was reporting problems on PlayStation during
for example, like the last time he had bought a system was like a 360.
Yeah, so me and Alex were able to get a way to get him a PlayStation 5. It's a huge thank you for being a part of the show for so many years.
But also it gives plenty of great perspective for somebody who hasn't had a new game system in like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's your experience like? And he's like, he's playing it on PlayStation, and so am I, and he's encountering crashes and errors that I wasn't pre-launch. So we should technically be experiencing the same thing, but we're not.
Yeah, like I will say in my experience, Xbox always seems to be the most stable platform for this. But I do find PlayStation gets more campaign issues, but Xbox will get the stupid multiplayer issues. Whereas with me, I have had more multiplayer crashes this year, yet no single player issues. So it's an inconsistent year, but it's not something that can't be solved within a couple of weeks of like hot fixes and stuff.
There's nothing like when we had Cold War come out and both of us had to reinstall the game 2 or 3 times because it would corrupt its own data.
I remember I had to uninstall high-res textures because certain kill streaks would crash my system.
And that was a 230 gig download every time.
Yeah, like it's nuts.
So the game is half that size, hasn't crashed once, hasn't corrupted any data even once, and works. I'm happy.
Yeah, now they are talking about this being a live service game. Like there's going to be some year 2 content that'll be significant. Not a lot about that is known so far.
Yeah, they're moving to a every other year release. I guess that means that each game is going to get 4 years in development instead of 3.
Although that being said, there is supposed to be another $70 Call of Duty game coming out next year. But I don't know. I like the Modern Warfare 2.
Are you sure about that?
Very.
I thought it was 2024.
No, very sure. Because if you want to follow more stuff like this, I recommend the Twitter account Charlie Intel.
Okay,
because
last I remember reading was that the 2023 content would be another campaign for this game, and that's it.
Yeah, there's supposed to be something. A lot of it is inconsistent right now.
Well, I mean, obviously we're way too far away, but I mean, if that's what they choose to do and they move to a 4-year life cycle or 4-year development cycle for each game and have a year off between each game for polish, I think I'm fine with that. We don't need to have one every single year as long as there's still content coming.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a good engine that's stable, you're moving the storyline forward, the multiplayer gets tweaked and it constantly improves where the casual players like it, the pros like it, and there's a good mix between those two. And that being said, this might be a year where I might dip into the CDL mosh pit to play the competitive modes to see how they're meant to be played. And if that system can be refined over time, if the devs stay on top of it, if things don't get bugged, if weapons are not pay to win, maintain consistency, I got no problem paying for a game over its life cycle as long as it's constantly improving. Whereas something like Halo Infinite, yeah, we're going to get campaign DLC, but who the hell knows when? And the seasonal DLC is the thing that came out last summer was like, okay, here's a 2-minute cutscene. Here's your battle pass. Go nuts. The winter contingency just launched. That's going to last until March. It's 30 tiers. I can clear that in like a week.
Well, and that's, a prime example of us being told, hey, this is a 10-year game with supposedly 10 years of single player campaign updates, and we've seen nothing in a year and a month already. So it's like, okay, so we just not going to get anything? Like, people lose faith pretty quickly if you don't maintain consistent updates. So this feels like with Call of Duty that they are planning to have consistent updates all throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what the future of Call of Duty is. I know my home team is the Toronto Ultra. I know we hosted a CDL Open this year. I would love to go to a Toronto Ultra experience because I've never been. And now that my manual wheelchair is literally, as of this recording, it was ordered today. The check is in the mail. I'm going to go to a Call of Duty thing and I'm going to have a friggin' blast. So Call of Duty, welcome back. I think this is going to be a fantastic time. I would love to play with some friends out there. Hopefully the co-op modes open up so me and Alice can play more together. And maybe we'll play some Ground War together because that's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's us versus 30 people and you don't have to be a pro. It's very, very casual. You'll have fun, I think. So final thoughts on this. I think you should pick it up. Do you need the Super Edition for the Vault? Probably not. Just pick it up. I think it's fun. There's going to be a sale by Christmas time. And one of my favorite times of year, Alex, it warms the cockles of my heart. I love Christmas morning Call of Duty noobs. It's so easy to farm XP and kills. It's so much fun.
You're so mean.
I'm such an asshole, but I love it.
Is that your revenge for them calling you names and being like bigoted online?
Yep. Like, you said something rude about my mom. Well, guess who? Well, guess who has all the attachments unlocked and knows the map way better than you? So, good morning, sunshine. Anyway, so that's going to do it for us here at Task Force TWIG right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Rather, me and Alex are going to deploy to the next combat zone. Look forward to the Season 1 Battle Pass, which will be launching very soon. I want to say on the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. Next weekend on the show, we're going to be doing another prototype where I take a look at my review of the latest edition in the God of War franchise, God of War Ragnarok. Sure, it's a little bit late, but you can't rush perfection as I crush the gods with the blades of chaos. I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, guys, for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
This has been Mike the Birdman saying, this is Bravo 6, going dark.
You're gonna owe me for this.
Why?
We're fixing each other's problems.
What's my problem?
Mask. Take it off.
Show my face.
Yes, sir.
Negative.
Are you ugly?
Quite the opposite.
I doubt that. LT, I'm at the bar.
You like tequila?
No, tastes like dog piss.
I'll take your word for it.
Got a tactical use for dog piss?
Wolf hunting. They follow the scent.
Do you hunt with a mask on?
Naturally. The camo version.
I bet you sleep with that thing.
Soundly.
You're out of your mind, LT.
That's for sure.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.